The aliens had come to watch. Not to fight, not to conquer, just to laugh. From the high glass balconies of their great ship Zephyr Prime, hundreds of alien diplomats gathered, staring down at a blue world burning under the light of its own sun. Earth. They were the Vethari, tall silver beings with faces smooth as mirrors and voices that echoed like flutes. They believed themselves above all things, especially humans. In their eyes, humans were nothing more than primitive, violent animals. A species that still worshipped flags, still prayed to invisible gods, still fought each other for dirt. Yet today, the Vethari had gathered for something strange. A human ritual. A funeral. On the screens of the alien hall, they watched as a group of soldiers stood in the middle of a ruined city. Their uniforms were torn, their faces dirty, but their eyes were bright and burning. In front of them lay a coffin draped in cloth, red, white, and blue. The human commander, an older man with steel-gray hair, stood at attention. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady as he spoke. "Today," he said, "we say goodbye to one of our own. A warrior who gave his life to protect not just Earth, but every soul who still believes in freedom." The aliens snickered. "Freedom," one of them whispered. A word humans use to excuse their chaos. Another alien added with a cruel smile, "They make such drama over one death. Their species breeds billions every century." The hall filled with soft, metallic laughter. But the humans didn't hear. They were too busy standing still, every soldier frozen in silence as a single bugle began to play. The sound was thin and lonely, floating through the smoke-filled air. Taps. The Vethari watched, amused, as the humans lifted their rifles and fired into the sky. 3 sharp cracks echoing across the ruins. The aliens leaned closer to the screens. "Is this their magic?" one asked. "They shoot the air to wake the dead?" "No," another said. "They shoot because they are angry. Always angry." The commander folded the flag, slow and careful, then handed it to a small child, perhaps 10 years old, who stood beside the coffin. The boy took it with shaking hands. His eyes were wet, but his chin stayed high. The aliens laughed again. "They teach their children to mourn," one said. "How primitive." But on the screen, something changed. The boy looked up, straight into the camera drone floating above. And for a brief second, his gaze pierced through the distance of light years. It was not the look of a broken child. It was the look of a storm waiting to rise. The laughter in the alien hall began to fade. "Strange," murmured one of the Vethari. "That look. I've seen it before." "Where?" "In the archives," the alien said softly. "The first human war. The one they fought against themselves. Before they had ships. Before they had peace. That same fire." The others scoffed. "Fire cannot burn in a vacuum," said the Speaker of the Council. "They will vanish soon. Their planet is dying. Their armies are dust. Their rituals are meaningless." But deep below, on the dying world, the ritual was not over. After the funeral, the commander turned to his soldiers. His voice was low, cold, like thunder about to break. "They watch us," he said. "Up there, those silver ghosts. They think we are finished." He paused, eyes scanning the sky. "They laugh now. But laughter fades when guns speak back." That night, the human fleet lit the dark side of the moon. Engines roared, reactors burned, and the first wave of ships, patched together from the ruins of old wars, rose into the void. The aliens watched with mild curiosity. "Pitiful," one said. "They build weapons from scrap metal." Another replied, "Let them come. It will be entertaining." And so the Vethari waited. But as the human ships reached orbit, something unexpected happened. The ships didn't attack. They vanished. No explosion. No signal. Just silence. The alien sensors blinked, confused. "Where did they go?" asked the speaker. A young technician answered, trembling. We don't know. They disappeared." The laughter began again, softer this time. Perhaps their machines fell apart, one said. But far beyond the moon, in the black between stars, something stirred. Old satellites blinked awake. Forgotten code whispered across frequencies unused for centuries. And in the cold dark, a voice spoke. Not human. Not alien. Something between. Protocol Phoenix Online. The boy from the funeral slept that night beneath the ruins of the old world, clutching the folded flag to his chest. Above him, the stars began to move. Not because of alien ships, but because humanity was no longer mourning. It was remembering. The stars moved again. At first, the vet Hari thought it was an illusion. The empty black between worlds suddenly came alive with tiny lights, hundreds, then thousands. Sensors screamed. Systems flickered. Something massive was coming out of the dark. "Report!" shouted the speaker. The technicians worked fast, their silver fingers dancing over the panels. "Unidentified signals, sir. Not alien. Not ours. Human origin, but impossible range." The speaker's eyes narrowed. "Humans. They do not have faster-than-light travel. Their ships were destroyed centuries ago." "Then explain this," the technician whispered. On the main screen, a shape appeared, vast, cold, and silent. It looked like a mountain floating in the void. Built from old satellites, battle debris, and the bones of forgotten ships. At its center burned a single blue light, the same hue as Earth's oceans. And across its hull, painted in white letters that no alien could understand, were two words. Phoenix Command. The speaker stood frozen. Impossible. But deep within that strange human fortress, voices whispered through the radio static. Systems online. Engines stable. Guns armed. Target acquired. The humans had returned. Not from a new colony. Not from another world. From the ashes of their own extinction. The boy from the funeral was there, years older now. The same fire in his eyes. He wore the black uniform of the new fleet, the patch on his arm showing a white bird rising from flame. "Captain," said the voice beside him, a woman with a scar down her face. "The vet Hari are laughing again. They think we're ghosts." The boy smiled, calm, cold. "Then let's haunt them properly." The alien fleet moved first. Sleek silver ships spread across the void like a curtain of light. Their weapons glowed with plasma energy, burning brighter than the sun. One alien officer sneered. "Show them how a true species fights." The first shot fired, a line of white light that tore across space and hit one of the human ships. It exploded instantly. The aliens cheered. But before their laughter could rise, something else happened. The destroyed ship didn't vanish. It split into a dozen smaller crafts, each one alive, each one turning its guns toward the enemy. Nanofighters. Human technology born from desperation and rage. Thousands of them burst from the wreckage, moving faster than light could follow. The aliens stopped cheering. Within seconds, the great vet Hari flagship's shields cracked. Explosions rippled through their formation. Their perfect silver fleet began to fall apart like glass under fire. The speaker shouted, "Counterattack! Now!" But it was too late. From the human flagship, the boy, now captain, gave the command. "Return the laugh." And the guns spoke back. It wasn't like any weapon the aliens had seen. Human guns didn't glow or hum, they roared. Metal slugs, fire, and shockwaves filled the void. It was ancient technology, yet terrifyingly effective. One alien screamed, "Their weapons are primitive. Why won't they break?" The answer came from the human captain's calm voice. "Because we build things to last." The alien fleet scattered. Some ships tried to warp away, but the humans had already learned. They had cracked alien codes, jammed their systems, turned their own energy fields into traps. The vet Hari began to understand something too late. Humans didn't fight for power. They fought for memory. Every shot, every explosion, every flame was a promise whispered at a soldier's funeral. And now, the promise was being kept. Hours passed. The stars grew silent again. The battle was over. Half the alien fleet was gone. The rest floated, broken and powerless, around the burning remains of Zephyr Prime. The speaker sat in silence, his voice hollow. How? They were dying. They were gone. On the human flagship, the captain stared out at the wreckage. His hands trembled slightly. They laughed at our rituals, he said quietly. But our rituals remind us who we are. The scarred woman beside him nodded. And who are we? The captain looked at the folded flag placed on the command table, the same one from the funeral years ago. He whispered, "We are the species that remembers our dead, and fights for the living." Silence fell again. Only the soft hum of the ship remained. Then a message arrived, not from humans, not from the Vethari, but from deep space. Unknown signal. Ancient code. The captain frowned. "Where is it from?" The AI answered, "Origin point, Earth, beneath the surface." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Earth had been empty for years, a planet of dust and ruins. The captain leaned forward. "Open the channel." Static. Then a voice. It was old. Weak. Human. "Phoenix Command, if you can hear me, this is General Ross. The last bunker is active. We found something. Not alien. Not human. Something older." The captain froze. "Older?" "Yes," the voice said. "It was buried under the first cities. We think it's what made them come here in the first place." The transmission cut off. The lights on the bridge flickered. For the first time, even the fearless crew looked uneasy. The scarred woman whispered, "What could be older than us?" The captain didn't answer. He looked out at the stars again, silent, endless. Somewhere, something was watching. And this time, it wasn't laughing. The Earth was silent. From space, it looked dead, just a gray ball covered in scars and ashes. But beneath those ashes, something was still alive. The captain stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Command. His eyes were locked on the hollow world below. "Bring us in," he said quietly. Engines flared. The fleet descended through clouds of dust and debris, passing through the remains of old satellites that still floated like ghosts around their home. The scarred woman, Commander Vale, spoke softly beside him. "I never thought we'd see Earth again." He nodded. "Neither did I." The landing was rough. The ground cracked beneath the weight of the ships. Once they stepped out, the air hit them, thin, dry, heavy with the smell of burnt stone. No birds. No wind. No life. Only silence. They moved across the ruins of a once great city. Towers lay broken. Roads were covered in gray dust. The sun hung weak in the red sky like an old candle. Vale stopped at a crumbled statue, the shape of a soldier holding a flag. The same flag the captain kept in his command room. He touched the stone. "They thought this was the end," she said. "It was," he replied. "But maybe it was also the beginning." They reached the coordinates from the old signal. The ground there was smooth and black, metal, not rock. "Looks like a bunker door," said one of the engineers. The captain knelt. The metal was warm, humming faintly. "This isn't human," he said. "No, sir," the engineer replied. "It's older." The team worked in silence until the door finally opened. A rush of cold air escaped, carrying the smell of old dust and something else. Something sharp like electricity and decay. They entered carefully, their lights cutting through the dark. The bunker went deep, much deeper than any human facility. The walls were covered in symbols, none of which made sense. "Aliens?" Vale asked. The captain shook his head. "No. Even the Vethari don't write like this." Deeper they went, until they reached a vast chamber glowing faintly blue. In the center stood a massive sphere, smooth, black, pulsing with light from within. And around it, skeletons. Hundreds of them. Some human. Some alien. All burned. Vale whispered, "What is this?" The captain stepped closer. The sphere hummed louder, reacting to his presence. "Whatever it is," he said softly, "it was here before us." Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. Not from their radios, from inside their heads. "You woke me." Everyone froze. Vale whispered, "Who said that?" The voice came again, slow and cold. "You built your cities above me. You fought your wars while I slept. And now you dig too deep." The captain's chest tightened. "Identify yourself." The voice laughed, a sound like thunder rolling through stone. "Names are for new things. I am old. Older than your world. I was buried here when the stars were still young." The sphere began to rise, floating off the ground. Its surface cracked, revealing something inside, a shape, a silhouette of metal and light. "The others came to serve me. They failed." "The Vethari," Vale breathed. "You mean the aliens?" "They were the last ones to try. They thought they could control me. But they were too afraid to understand what I am." The captain lifted his weapon. "And what are you?" The light flared. "I am the reason you exist." The chamber shook. Rocks fell. The walls trembled. The sphere's surface split open, and from it emerged a figure, tall, silver, and terrible. Not alive, not machine, something between. Vale shouted, "Back! Everyone, fall back!" But the captain didn't move. His eyes were locked on the figure. It looked almost human. 2 arms. 2 legs. A face, smooth, featureless, yet somehow aware. The voice spoke again, now coming from that shape. "Long ago, I made a mistake. I seeded life here. You were not supposed to survive. Yet you did. You learned pain. You learned war. You learned to fight." The captain's voice was steady. "So you're saying you created us?" "Yes. But you are broken. You were meant to build, not destroy. The Vethari came to erase you, to fix my error. And still, you endured." The captain's hand tightened on his weapon. "Maybe we endured because we were meant to." The figure tilted its head. "Meant to. You believe in meaning. That is your flaw. You think your violence has purpose." "Maybe it does," the captain said. "Maybe survival is the purpose." The figure paused, as if studying him. Then it smiled. "Not kind. Cold. Then show me." The sphere pulsed once, and a shockwave blasted through the chamber. Alarms screamed. Lights went dark. The humans were thrown back. The captain hit the wall hard but forced himself up. "Everyone out. Now." Vale shouted. But the exit had sealed. The figure stood between them and the way out, its eyes burning with blue fire. "You want to prove your worth, child of ashes," it said. "Then fight for it." The captain aimed his rifle. "Gladly." The first shot echoed like thunder through the underground world. And above, far beyond the clouds, in the wreckage of the alien fleet, something stirred again. The Vethari survivors felt it. A pulse. A signal. A power they had once worshipped. The speaker whispered, terrified, "It's awake." The chamber shook like a living thing. Dust rained from the ceiling as the ancient being stepped forward, its glowing eyes cutting through the smoke. The humans opened fire. Bullets screamed, ricocheting off the metallic walls, sparks, thunder, flashes of light. But when the smoke cleared, the being was untouched. It didn't move fast. It didn't need to. Every step it took made the ground tremble. The captain reloaded. "Aim for the joints," he shouted. Commander Vale dropped to one knee and fired a burst toward its legs. The creature staggered for a second, then turned its gaze toward her. Blue fire flashed. Vale was thrown across the room, crashing into a wall of stone. She didn't scream, She just hit the ground hard, gasping for breath. The captain ran to her. Vale, stay with me. Her eyes opened weakly. It's not a machine, sir. It's alive. The creature's voice echoed again, not through sound, but directly in their minds. You call this fighting? You call this strength? You are still children playing with fire. The captain clenched his jaw. Maybe. But we learned from the best. He pressed a button on his wrist device. Phoenix command, this is Alpha 1. Target my signal. Bunker coordinates 37 north, 9 delta. Prepare strike. The voice of his ship's AI answered, calm and clear. Confirm, orbital strike on your position? Confirmed, the captain said. The soldiers froze. Sir, you'll kill us all. He looked at the glowing creature. Better that than letting this thing live. The being tilted its head. You would destroy yourselves to destroy me? The captain smiled grimly. That's what makes us human. The ground split open as the creature raised its hand. Blue lightning tore through the air, striking the ceiling. Rocks and metal crashed down. The bunker groaned under the pressure. Fire! The captain shouted. From orbit, a beam of white light descended, burning through the atmosphere, punching straight into the heart of the earth. The explosion swallowed everything. When the dust cleared, there was only silence. The surface of Earth glowed with molten scars. The old city was gone, reduced to black glass and drifting ash. Up in orbit, the crew watched in silence. Commander Vale's signal was gone. The captain's too. But the scanners showed something strange. Movement. Sir, the technician whispered, there's something coming out of the blast zone. On the main screen, through the flames and smoke, a shape began to rise. The being was still alive. Its once perfect body was cracked, molten, and broken, but alive. It climbed out of the crater like a wounded god, and clinging to its arm, burned but breathing, was the captain. The crew gasped. Open comms. Static hissed. Then his voice came through, rough and broken. This thing, it's regenerating. It's using our energy strike to heal itself. The technician cried out, Sir, you can't fight that alone. The captain laughed weakly. Not planning to. He pressed something against the creature's body, a small metal cylinder glowing red. A fusion core. The being looked down, curious. What is that? The captain grinned through blood and smoke. A gift from the species that never learns. The blast that followed could be seen from orbit. When it faded, both were gone. The crew stood in silence. Commander Vale's voice came softly through the speakers. He did it. The signal's gone. The energy readings are dropping. But before they could celebrate, the sensors screamed again. New readings, shouted the technician. Multiple. Across the entire planet. Dozens of blue lights began to glow beneath Earth's surface. Vale's face went pale. There's more of them. And then, the comms crackled. A faint voice, human, but distant. This is Captain Ross. If you can hear me, don't come back for me. Vale froze. Sir, you're alive. Alive enough, he said weakly. Listen carefully. It wasn't just one being. It was a network. A whole race. They've been sleeping here. Waiting. Vale's throat tightened. What do we do? The captain's voice came slow, fading. Do what humans always do. Adapt, and fight. The signal cut out for good. Vale stood silently on the bridge, her reflection glowing in the screen's light. Outside, Earth began to pulse like a beating heart, blue lights spreading across continents. She whispered, He bought us time. Then, turning to the crew, her voice became steel. Prepare the fleet. We're not running. Commander, what's the plan? She looked out at the burning planet. We finish what he started. And if those things want war, she clenched her fist. We'll give them one. Far above, the alien survivors, the Vet Hari, watched in horror from their crippled ships. The speaker stared at the glowing Earth. "The humans woke the first ones," he said. "We told them not to dig. We warned them." One of his officers turned to him. "Then we must leave this system." The speaker shook his head. "No. If those creatures rise, they will consume the stars. The humans may be our only chance." He looked out toward the Phoenix Command, still circling the planet like a lonely sentinel. "Contact them," he said quietly. "Tell the humans. The Vet Hari are ready to fight beside them." The night side of Earth glowed blue, not from cities or fire, but from the lights moving beneath the surface, spreading like veins through the crust of the planet. The humans and the Vet Hari watched together from orbit, silent. For the first time, they were afraid of the same thing. Commander Vale stood in the command hall of Phoenix Prime, now the new flagship of the human fleet. Her eyes were locked on the glowing planet. "Status report," she said quietly. The technician replied, "The energy signatures are increasing. Whatever's under there, it's waking up faster than before." A tall figure stepped beside her. The speaker of the Vet Hari, wrapped in silver armor cracked from battle. His voice was low and calm. "You humans are stubborn," he said. "Most species would run." Vale didn't look at him. "Running never saved us before." The speaker studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Perhaps that is why you survive." The room filled with tension. Humans and Vet Hari officers stood side by side, once enemies, now allies. They avoided each other's eyes, unsure if trust was possible. Vale broke the silence. "We have one chance. If we hit the main energy core beneath the surface, we might destroy the network before it spreads off-world." The Vet Hari engineer tilted his head. "If we fail." Vale looked at the holographic map, the glowing Earth surrounded by orbiting ships. "Then it won't matter. None of us will live to regret it." The speaker smiled faintly. "A very human plan." Below, on the planet's surface, massive machines began to rise from the ground, towers of dark metal, shaped like claws reaching for the sky. Lightning arced between them, turning night into storm. One of the human soldiers whispered, "They're building something." Vale narrowed her eyes. "No," she said softly. "They're calling something." Suddenly, the communication screen flickered. Static filled the bridge. Then, a voice. Old. Familiar. "This is Captain Ross." The crew froze. Vale's heart jumped. "Sir, you're alive." The voice came through in pieces, broken, distorted. "Not for long. I'm still here. Inside the network. It tried to take me, but I held on." The speaker leaned forward. "He's merged with it." Vale's voice trembled. "Captain, what do we do?" Silence. Then his reply, faint but firm. "They're not gods. They feed on energy, on minds. They need fear to grow. Don't give it to them." The static grew louder. "Commander, tell them, tell everyone, humanity doesn't bow." The signal cut out. Vale stood frozen. The bridge was silent. Even the Vet Hari lowered their heads. Then she spoke, steady and sharp. "You heard him. Prepare all ships. This ends tonight." The Vet Hari speaker turned to her. "You would fight on the surface?" "Yes," Vale said. "Where he died. Where we were born." Moments later, the fleet descended. Hundreds of ships, human and alien, entered the burning sky together. The clouds turned red as plasma trails ripped through the atmosphere. Below, the Earth's surface had changed. Gigantic black towers pierced the clouds. Rivers of blue light flowed between them, pulsing like the heartbeat of a dying god. Vale's ship hit the ground hard. The hatch opened, revealing the wasteland ahead, dark, trembling, alive. "Form up," she shouted. Human Marines and Vet Hari warriors stepped out side by side, weapons ready. For the first time in history, They stood on the same line. The ground cracked. From the shadows, the creatures emerged. They were made of metal and light, shapes that twisted and crawled, half machine, half nightmare. Their eyes glowed the same blue as the towers. One hissed, its voice echoing like a chorus of 1,000 whispers. "Children of dust. You cannot win." Vale raised her rifle. "We'll see." The battle exploded. Gunfire tore through the air. Alien plasma weapons burned through metal limbs. The sky turned white with lightning. The ground was covered in fire, but neither side fell back. A Vet-Hari soldier saved a human marine from one of the beasts, firing his plasma blade into its chest. The marine nodded, breathless. "Didn't think I'd ever thank one of you," he said. The Vet-Hari smiled. "Then you've learned something." Meanwhile, Vale pushed forward through the chaos toward the largest tower. Her armor was cracked, her rifle empty, but her eyes burned with determination. She reached the base of the structure and saw the glowing core, a swirling sphere of blue energy, alive and pulsing. Her comms crackled again. A voice, faint, broken, whispered in her ear. "Vale." Her eyes widened. "Captain." "Yes," the voice said. "You have to destroy the heart. But you can't do it with weapons. It feeds on conflict, on hate." She looked up at the core. It pulsed faster now, as if listening. "Then how?" she asked. The voice was fading. "You have to shut it down, the way humans always win, together." Vale understood. She turned on her wideband comm. Her voice echoed across every ship, every soldier. "All forces, stop firing," she shouted. The soldiers hesitated, confused. "Stop. All of you," she cried. The battlefield fell silent. Even the Vet-Hari lowered their weapons. The creatures froze, uncertain. Vale stepped forward, standing beneath the tower, and placed her hand on the ground. "This world is ours," she said softly. "And we will not feed your hunger anymore." The ground began to shake violently. The towers screamed, light flickering wildly. The creatures howled, not in rage, but in fear. The energy pulsed once, twice, then collapsed in on itself, pulling the towers and the blue light back into the earth like a great breath. And then, silence. The wind returned. The sky cleared. Vale fell to her knees, exhausted. The speaker approached her slowly. "It's over," he said. She nodded weakly. "For now." He looked at the horizon, where the first rays of sunlight touched the broken earth. "Perhaps," he said softly, "you humans were never meant to die." Vale smiled faintly. "No," she whispered. "We were meant to endure." Far above, in the quiet orbit, a small beacon still blinked from the ruins of Phoenix Command. Its signal was simple. Old Earth code. "We are still here." The world was quiet again. For the first time in centuries, Earth had light that wasn't fire. The blue glow was gone. The towers were dust. Only sunlight touched the ruins now. Commander Vale stood on a high ridge overlooking what was once a city. Behind her, tents and repair stations stretched across the wasteland. Humans and Vet-Hari worked together, rebuilding what the war had broken. A young engineer approached, holding a small scanner. "Commander, we found something under the crater. It's not enemy tech." Vale frowned. "Show me." They walked down into the cracked valley where the final battle had taken place. The ground was black glass, still warm. In the center lay a small sphere, smooth, silver, and quiet. The Vet-Hari speaker joined them, his mirrored armor dulled by ash. "Another weapon?" he asked. The engineer shook his head. "No energy signature. But it's pulsing, faintly. Like a heartbeat." Vale knelt and touched the surface. The sphere flickered and opened like a flower. Inside was a crystal shard, glowing soft white, not blue. A voice whispered through her helmet speakers. Not loud, not threatening. Gentle. "Do not fear." Vale froze. "Did you hear that?" The engineer nodded, pale. Yes. The Vethari tilted his head. It speaks. The voice came again. I am what came before the darkness. The ones you fought were fragments, broken echoes of what I once was. Vale's throat tightened. You mean the beings under the earth? They were my shadows, the voice said softly. I created them to build, to guard this world. But they turned to hunger. You destroyed them, and saved more than you know. The Vethari looked uneasy. And what are you, then? The voice paused. You would call me Origin. Vale glanced at the Vethari. It created life here. It said so before. The crystal shimmered brighter. Yes. I made the first sparks, both yours and theirs. The same code runs in human veins, and alien circuits. The Vethari took a step back, shocked. Impossible. Not impossible, Origin said. You are both my children. Divided by time. You forgot each other and learned to hate what you could not understand. Silence filled the crater. Vale whispered. Then the wars. The hatred. It was all family fighting itself. The voice was kind, but heavy. Yes. But now, perhaps, you can begin again. The sphere dimmed slightly. Vale reached toward it. Wait, don't go. We can learn from you. No, it said softly. You must learn from yourselves. I have slept long enough. The stars are calling. And this planet, it belongs to you now. The light faded until only a soft glow remained, then vanished completely. The sphere turned gray, dead metal once more. Vale stood slowly. Around her, the humans and Vethari stared at the silent object, unsure what to feel. The speaker broke the silence. If what it said is true, then our war was a mistake older than memory. Vale looked at him. Then maybe it's time to stop repeating it. He nodded. Perhaps peace is another kind of strength. Days turned into weeks. Together, they began to rebuild. The Vethari shared their technology. The humans shared their stubborn will. Cities rose again, half metal, half stone, powered by both science and survival. They called the alliance the renewal. At night, Vale would stand beneath the stars, watching the sky shimmer with the lights of orbiting ships. She often thought about the captain, his sacrifice, his last words. One evening, as she looked up, a soft ping echoed from her communicator. An old code, one that hadn't been used since the war. She opened it. This is Phoenix Command. Signal found. Not from Earth. Unknown source. Her heart raced. Location. The officer replied, Outer System. Edge of the belt. The signal. It matches the captain's DNA profile. Vale's eyes widened. That's impossible. He died months ago. Maybe, the officer said quietly. But the signal's getting stronger. The Vethari speaker entered the room. What is it? She showed him the data. He looked thoughtful. If the Origin's power reached him before the explosion, perhaps he was changed. Preserved. Vale stared at the blinking dot on the map. A small pulse, far beyond Mars. Set a course, she said. We're going after him. Commander, the officer asked softly. What if it isn't him? Vale looked out at the stars. Then we find out what it is. Humanity doesn't leave its own behind. The engines roared as the fleet lifted from the renewed Earth, cutting through clouds toward the endless black. As the planet faded below, the Vethari speaker whispered to himself, Maybe this is what your captain meant, that humans never stop reaching. Vale smiled faintly. No, she said. We never stop. Far away, in the silent dark near the asteroid belt, something waited, half buried in rock and ice. A figure encased in crystal, eyes faintly glowing blue and white together. The face was human. The heart, something more. And as the fleet drew closer, the faint voice of the captain whispered through the static once again. Welcome home. The fleet moved in silence through the black. Engines burned faintly blue as Phoenix Prime led the formation toward the outer edge of the solar system. Beyond Mars, beyond the frozen moons, a single signal pulsed, steady, patient, calling them closer. Commander Vale stood on the bridge, watching the signal flicker on the main screen. Each pulse matched the rhythm of a heartbeat. "It's the same code," said the technician. "Old human encryption. Captain Ross's ID." Vale nodded slowly. "Then he's out there." The Vethari speaker stood beside her, his tall form reflected in the glass. "If this is true, your kind does not die easily." Vale smiled faintly. "No, we don't. We just find new ways to come back." The ships reached the asteroid belt after 3 days. Ice and stone floated in silence, reflecting distant sunlight like broken mirrors. "There," said the technician. "Signals coming from that cluster." Vale leaned forward. "Magnify." The screen focused on a massive asteroid split in half by old impact scars. In the center of its hollow lay a chamber of glass and metal, clearly not natural. Alien design, but human shape. The fleet slowed to a crawl. Drones moved ahead, their lights cutting through the dark. The speaker frowned. "These markings, they are Vethari. Older than our empire." Vale looked at him. "You mean your people built this?" He shook his head slowly. "No. We found it. We thought it was a tomb. We sealed it and left it. But now," he gestured to the screen, "now it answers in a human voice." The chamber door opened by itself. A faint white glow poured out. "Prepare landing team," Vale said. "I'm going down." The speaker looked surprised. "You, personally?" She met his eyes. "He was my captain." Minutes later, the shuttle descended, cutting through drifting dust and light. It touched down softly on the frozen rock. Vale stepped out, her boots crunching against ancient ice. The air was thin, sharp. Inside the open chamber, everything glowed pale blue. At the center stood a crystal structure, tall as a man. And inside it was him. Captain Ross. His eyes were closed. His face calm. His body half human, half light, veins of energy pulsing beneath the skin. Vale approached slowly. "Sir." The sensors on her wrist blinked. Heartbeat detected. Faint, but there. The Vethari speaker followed behind, awe in his voice. "He is, both of you. Human and something else." Vale touched the crystal. It was warm. Suddenly, his eyes opened. The blue and white glow inside them flickered like twin stars. "Commander," he said softly. His voice echoed through the chamber, deep and distant. Vale froze. "Captain, you're alive." He smiled faintly. "Alive, changed. I don't know what I am now." The speaker stepped forward. "You merged with the Origin, didn't you?" Ross nodded slowly. "When the explosion happened, it reached out. I saw everything. The creation, the fall, the shadows. The Origin wasn't evil, it was broken. It tried to fix what it made, and it made us instead." Vale whispered. "So you carry it inside you now?" "I carry its memory," he said. "Its knowledge. Its regret." He looked at her with eyes that seemed to see through time. "It wanted you to live. All of you. That's why it left the shard behind, to remind you that creation never ends. Even after destruction." Vale stepped closer. "Then come back with us. The war's over. The world's rebuilding." Ross smiled sadly. "No. Not for me. My body isn't what it was. My mind is connected. The more I wake, the more I feel the stars whispering. There are others out there, Commander. Other worlds, other shadows. They'll come someday." The Vethari lowered his head. "Then perhaps we must be ready." Ross nodded. "Together. Humans and Vethari. Not as enemies, not as conquerors, as kin." The crystal around him began to glow brighter. Vale's voice trembled. "Captain, what are you doing?" He looked at her one last time. "Finishing what we started." The light spread through the chamber, warm and pure. The ice melted, the metal hummed. Ross's voice echoed one final time. "Tell them the human story isn't about strength, it's about choice. We fall, we rise, and we keep going, no matter how many times the universe tries to end us." The light flared, then vanished. Where the crystal had been, only a silver emblem remained, shaped like a bird rising from flame. The phoenix. Vale picked it up, her hand shaking. "Goodbye, sir." The speaker placed a hand on her shoulder. "He's not gone. He became what your people always wanted to be, unbroken." Back on Phoenix Prime, the fleet began to move again, not toward Earth, but beyond it. Vale stood on the bridge, the emblem resting beside her. "Set a new course," she said softly. "Beyond the belt. Into the unknown." The technician asked, "Destination?" She smiled faintly. "Anywhere the stars still laugh." Engines ignited. The ships turned toward the endless dark. Below them, the asteroid glowed faintly, a single symbol burning bright across its surface. "We endure." And as the fleet vanished into the deep, the stars themselves seemed to flicker. Not in warning this time, but in welcome. Humanity was no longer the frightened child of the galaxy. It had become its voice.